Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we will chant up to 27 today. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam, Bhaj Mudhamate, Samprakte Sannihite Kale, Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrim Karne, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam, Bhaj Mudhamate, Mudhajahi Hidhana, Gamatrishnam Kuru Satbuddhim, Manasi Vitrishnam Yallabhase, Nijakarmopatam, Vittam Tena Vinodaya Chittam, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam, Bhaj Mudhamate, Nari Stana Bharanabhi Desham Drishtva Maga Mohavesham Etanaman Savasadi Vikaram Manasi Vichintaya Varam Varam, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam, Bhaj Mudhamate, Nalini Dalagata Jalamati Taralam, Tattvajivitamatishaya Chapalam, Vitti Vyadhyabhimana Grastam, Lokam Shokahatam Cha Samastam, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam, Bhaj Mudhamate, Yavat Vittoparjana Saktaha, Tavat Nija Parivaro Rakta, Paschat Jivati Jar Jar Dehe, Vartam Kopina Prachati Gehe, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam, Bhaj Mudhamate, Yavat Pavano Nivasati Dehe, Tavat गच्छति कुशलं गेहे गतवति वायौ देहापाये भार्या बिभ्यति तस्मिन् काये भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते बालस्तावत् क्रीडासक्तः तरुणस्तावत् तरुणीसक्तः वृद्धस्तावत् चिन्तासक्तः परमे ब्रह्मणि कोऽपि न सक्तः भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते काते कान्ता कस्ते पुत्रः संसारोऽयमतीव विचित्र कस्य त्वं ककुत आयात तत्त्वं चिन्तय तदिह भ्रात भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते सत्सङ्गत्वे निस्सङ्गत्वं निस्सङ्गत्वे निर्मोहत्वे निश्चलतत्त्वं निश्चलतत्त्वे जीवनमुक्ति भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते वयसि गते कामविकार शुष्के नीरे काकसार क्षीणे वित्ते का परिवारो ज्ञाते तत्त्वे कः संसार भज गोविन्दं भज मूढमते मा कुरु धनजन यौवन गर्वं हरति निमिषात् कालः सर्वं माया मयम् इदम् अखिलं बुद्ध्वा ब्रह्मपदं त्वं प्रविश विदित्वा भज गोविन्दं भज मूढमते दिन्यामिन्यौ सायं प्रातः शिशिरवसन्तौ पुनरायात कालक्रीडति गच्छति आयु तदपि न मुञ्चति आशावायु भज गोविन्दं भज मूढमते काते कान्ता धनगत चिन्ता वातुलकिं तव नास्ति नियन्ता त्रिजगति सज्जन संगति रेखा भवति भवार्णवतरणे नौका भज गोविन्दं भज मूढमते जटिलो मुण्डी लुञ्चित केशः काशायाम्बर बहुकृत वेश पश्यन्नपि च न पश्यति मूढ उदरनिमित्तं बहुकृत वेश भज गोविन्दं भज मूढमते अंगं गलितं पलितं मुण्डं दशनविहीनं जातं तुण्डं धूयाति गृहीत्वा दण्डं तदपि न मुञ्चति आशापिण्डं भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते अग्रे बह्नि पृष्ठे भानुः रात्रौ चुबुकसमर्पितजानु करतलभिक्षातरुतलवास तदपि न मुञ्चति आशापाश भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते कुरुते गङ्गा सागरगमनं व्रतपरिपालनम् अथवा दानं ज्ञानविहीन सर्वमतेन मुक्तिन भजति जन्मशतेन भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते सुरमन्दिरतरुमूलनिवासः शय्याभूतलम् अजिनं वास सर्वपरिग्रह भोगत्याग कस्य सुखं न करोति विराग भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते योगरतो वा भोगरतो वा सङ्गरतो वा सङ्गविहीन यस्य ब्रह्मणि रमते चित्तं नन्दति नन्दति नन्दत्येव भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते भगवद्गीता किञ्चिदधीता गङ्गाजललव कणिका पीता सकृदपि येन मुरारिसमर्चा क्रियते तस्य यमेन न चर्चा भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते पुनरपि जननं पुनरपि मरणं पुनरपि जननी जठरे शयनम् इह संसारे बहुदुस्तारे कृपया पारे पाहि मुरारे भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते रथ्याचरपटविरचितकन्थः पुण्या पुण्यविवर्जितपन्थः योगी योगनियोजितचित्तो रमते बालोन्मतवद्देव भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते कस्त्वं कोऽहं कुत आयातः कामे जननी को मे तातः इति परिभावय सर्वमसारं विश्वं त्यक्त्वा स्वप्नविचारं भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते त्वयि मयि चान्यत्रैको विष्णुः व्यर्थं कुप्यसि मयि असहिष्णु भव समचित्तः सर्वत्र tvam vanchasi chirat yadi Vishnu tvam bhaj govindam bhaj govindam govindam bhaj mudhamate shatrau mitre putre bandhau ma kuru yatnam vigraha sandhau sarvasminnapi pashyatmanam sarvatrotsrija bheda jnanam bhaj govindam bhaj govindam govindam bhaj mudhamate kamam krodham lobham moham त्यक्त्वात्मानं पश्यति सोऽहम् आत्मज्ञानविहीना मूढा ते पच्यन्ते नरकनिगूढा भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते गेयं गीता नाम सहस्रं ध्येयं श्रीपतिरूपमजस्रं नेयं सज्जनसङ्गे चित्तं देयं दीनजनाय च वित्तं भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते. So last week we saw verse number 26. In that verse he said, Kamam, Krodham, Lobham, Moham, Tyaktva. After giving up Kama, Krodha, Lobha and Moha, desire, anger, greed and delusion, once that is given up, then one can see one's true self, which is residing in our innermost core. That divinity is obscured from us because of desire, anger, greed. The 6 enemies, in Sanskrit, the word that is used is Shataripu, 6 enemies. Kama, which is desire. Krodha is anger. Kama, Krodha, Lobha is greed. Moha is delusion, mada is arrogance, matsarya is envy or jealousy. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, mada, moha. Moha, Kama is desire, Krodha is anger, Lobha is greed. Kama, Krodha, Lobha. Moha is delusion, mada is arrogance, and matsarya is jealousy. So these are the 6 enemies which have to be given up. And when these are given up, we come to recognize ourselves, true essential self. So how do we do that? If, as long as these 6 enemies are within us, we live in hell. Hell is what we create for ourselves. Heaven and hell are not geographical locations. They are here and now, which we create for ourselves. So how do we now transform ourselves and overcome these enemies? So here he has given us 4 techniques. Geyam Gita Namah Sahasram. Chant the Gita and Vishnu Sahasranam. Dhyayam Shripati Rupamajasram. And always meditate and contemplate upon the form of Shripati, who is Vishnu. Neyam Sajjana Sange Chittam. Keep your chitta or your mind in the company of good. And Deyam Dina Janaya Chavitta. Help share your wealth with the needy. These are the 4 techniques that he has given. Now this is to transform our mind, to rehabilitate our mind. in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna tells Krishna, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balavat dridham tasyaham nigraham manye vayureva sudushkuram. This mind is fickle, chanchalam. It is pramati, it is impulsive. It gets easily attached, and it is forceful, balavat, and obstinate. This is how all our minds are. And he says that to control such a mind is as difficult as trying to control the wind. And Krishna answers him beautifully. He says, Asamshayam Mahabaho. And at that time, he addresses Arjuna as Mahabaho, mighty armed, who can do anything. If you can do anything, certainly this, although it is difficult, will not be a challenge, a great challenge. Asamshayam Mahabaho Manodura Nigraha. It is very difficult, but abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha dushkrute. By practice and by dispassion, it will happen. So abhyasa means constant practice. So here he is giving us what the practice should be. Practices are of two types, external and internal. So the first external practice that he is giving is chanting the Gita and chanting Vishnu Sahasranam. Chanting is what Gurudev used to say very nicely. We had all learned how to chant Gita in Bal Vihar as kids. We started, I think, at 7 or 8 when we used to go to the mission. So there were 4 words that Gurudev used to employ for chanting. First was chant. By chanting, you will get curious to know what it is about. So you will study. So chant brings study. Through study comes knowledge. You come to know. So chant, study, know. And once you have that knowledge, you live it. So chant, study, know, live. These are the 4 words. This is what chanting will lead to. It is an age-old practice in India that we used to all learn to chant Gita at home. Vishnu Sahasranam was chanted at home, and we all used to do it. Vishnu Sahasranam also, what it does is it gives us the 1,000 names of Vishnu. And those 1,000 names, as we go through the day, we will see him in the creation. So this gives us a vision of Creator in the creation. So, and then when you see the divine in the creation, how are you going to live? So chanting will lead to study. It will bring, although it is an external practice, this external practice will lead to an internal transformation, and it will get us to live what is being taught there. Often chanting is done collectively also for a certain cause. Sometimes we will also do it in memory of people. And it is very empowering because of the collective energy that it generates. Collective chanting is very empowering, and it also creates an atmosphere that brings about a certain attitude within us. The effect of the vibrations of the chanting. So this is the very first practice, external practice that we start with. Then he suggests Dhyayam Shripati Rupam Ajasram. So next is meditate upon the form of Lord Vishnu. So the mind keeps on wandering, it goes everywhere. So to bring the mind into a focus, into a control, they give you an idol to meditate upon. Now the idol represents an ideal. So when we look at, here he has suggested Vishnu, because, this is one they have, it's in the meter and it falls in line here. But whoever is your Ishta Devata, your personal Lord, you focus on that. Now, the mind has a tendency to wander. It goes out through the senses. But wherever there is love, the mind will automatically go there. And for the idol or the ideal, there must be reverence, not just love. So the difference between love, devotion, or reverence is that in reverence, there is both love and respect. And where there is love and respect, the mind will stay there. So he says that, keep your mind, make your mind contemplate on the form of the divine. Gurudev, he was a skeptic, and his very purpose of joining Shivananda mission or Divine Life Society was to expose Swami Shivanand, that he was a journalist then, and he wanted the world to know that these Swamis are all hoax. And look at the transformation that came in. Gurudev came from a very traditional home, and the family was very ritualistic. Every day they used to have ritualistic worship, which used to last for about 2.5 to 3 hours. And all kids had to participate. As a 3-year-old, 4-year-old child also, he had to sit for that 2.5 to 3 hour ritual. He was not interested in the ritual, but there was a beautiful picture, Lord Chandrakadhar. The rituals were going on. He would look at the picture with open eyes, then close his eyes, and he would try to bring the form of that particular picture in his mind. And then when the form was no longer there, he would open his eyes again, look at it, and get it again. And he would call that his hide and seek with Lord Shiva. That was how he used to pass his time. What he did not know as a child was that he was practicing a very significant meditative practice. You look at a form and internalize it. Look at a form, internalize it. And then when you come to know the significance of that form, the ideal behind the idol, that brings a transformation at a subconscious level. And so you make that connection with the divine. And there is no need for us all to feel, Hindus especially, we feel a big challenge. If I don't worship Ganesha, I will get a lot of obstacles. If I don't worship Lakshmi, I will not get wealth. If I don't worship Saraswati, I will not get knowledge. They are all forms of that one supreme divine. One of them, surrender, have faith, and that one will give you all. We don't need to worship all of them. Yes, if we are able to do it, great, but not out of guilt or fear that this one will be angry with me, Shiva will get angry, Vishnu will get angry, and I will have challenges. No, just one will, my surrender to that one will bring that transformation in me. Our mind wanders because of lack of love, focus, and faith. So to bring that mind into focus and to develop the faith, it is the third practice, Neyam Satchanas Sange Chittam, through the company of seekers, of saints, where we get, we go and listen to kathas, or we go and listen to discourses, depending on what our personality is. Some will go to Ram Leela just to see the whole enactment. Some will go and listen to kathas. Now, all of us, those of us who grew up in India know that. I remember going with Ba to listen to Dongre Maharaj, going to listen to Pandurang Shastri. These were the people Ba would go, and she would go with all her friends. And as kids, our parents used to send us, don't your grandmoms cannot go alone. They need company, go with them. We thought we were looking after our grandmoms. Actually, they were looking after us. And but we got exposed to this beautiful way of living. So many ways it was beautiful. So we got exposed to this kathas. What are the, now if you listen to Bhagavad, it was all, when you especially saw Bal Leela, I know it was very important to go for when they would say that event of Makhan Chor would come up, the one who came to steal butter. So a lot of them would like to go at that time. Now it would, to those who are intellectuals, they will wonder, what is this thing about stealing the butter? But when you understand the symbolism, it is so beautiful. Butter is a product of action. You take milk, you get milk, the milk in India, of course, the traditional way is you make the milk into yogurt. The yogurt is then churned to get buttermilk, and butter floats on the top. So that butter is taken out. So it represents the fruit of an action. And fruit of an action is often an impression that is left behind in our minds. Every action leaves behind an impression. And this impression that is left behind determines our behavior. I go to a store, I don't get good service. The impression is I'm not going there again. If I will not go there if I don't have to. I go to a place, I'm served well, I feel good about it, I will go there again to repeat or avoid an action. So those impressions are left behind, and that becomes a pattern of living, and that creates also agitation in our mind. So Krishna, he doesn't come through the doors. He comes through the windows, and steals the butter. These windows represent our sense organs through which we receive stimuli, and these stimuli leave behind impressions. So he takes away those impressions so that every action is an objective, independent, intelligent action. Now that's such a beautiful, and what kind of an action that will be? That will be the action that comes from the very source of our being, from that is the divine core of our being. So such a beautiful symbolism when we understand it. So go to the company of good, whether it is katha, whether it is discourse, which expounds on the meanings of Gita or different Vedanta scriptures, but keep the right company. Neyam sajjana sange chittam, that will bring about a transformation. And then deyam dina janaya chavittam, share your wealth with the needy. Here in North America, there is a tradition of giving in charity what one does not need. And people talk very, so as if they have done something wonderful. I gave away their most expensive things, they will name designer things, in charity to the Diabetic Society. The only reason they give it away is because they have no need for it. They don't give away what they want. Now, this should not be taken as giving away what we need or foolishly, but it is about sharing and caring. To share and how to give and what to give. This, it should be given initially when we are not transformed. It is very important, to pay attention to Desh, Kala, and there is one more, to give to the deserving. Desh, Kala, and Patra is the person deserving. Till we are not transformed. It is not for the other person, it is more for ourselves. When we are transformed, we will realize that giving is our nature, but that will follow. Till then, we have to act intelligently. Till we become that instrument of divine, we have to pay attention to this. This sharing is, I was reminded of a beggar in Bombay. And I think it was at the other station that this beggar used to sit regularly. And there was one person who, when he would return home from work, would give this beggar a rupee. Every day when he would return, he would give a rupee to this beggar. One evening when he returned, this beggar was not there. So he thought maybe today he hasn't come. Next day he wasn't there, and then this beggar was not there for about few months. So this man thought maybe he's fallen sick, who knows what has happened. This man happened to go to church gate one day. And when he got off the station, he saw this beggar begging there. So he said to him, "You used to beg in Dadar. How come you are here?" He said, "My daughter got married, and in dowry, I give Dadar to my son-in-law for begging." Now, you see what you give and how you give. You should also know you can only give what is yours. You cannot give what is not yours. So that was very interesting, I thought, in giving. We have to all share. For us, charity is not compulsory, because until we are not ready, it will not be real giving. It should become a way of life, of not just sharing wealth. Sharing wealth is an initial step. When can we share of ourselves? When can we give love? So these are the 4 practices that will bring about a transformation in us. And through this transformation, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha will all be Tyaktva, given up. And we will be able to recognize our essential self. With this verse, verse number 27, 14 verses by Shankaracharya's disciples conclude. The last 4 verses are by Shankaracharya. They conclude Bhaj Govindam, and then it gives a summary as well. So next week we will look at it further. We'll say our concluding prayers, and maybe we might be able to meet for a couple of minutes. I don't know. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukha bhag bhavet. કેમ છો જલ્પા?
Fine.
Disconnect થઈ જશે પછી હું તરત restart કરીશ so that we can do check.
Okay, good, good.